It's been an interesting, perhaps even dicey offseason now at the start of training camp for a Super Bowl co-favorite. That's the San Francisco 49ers, listed right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook with a 6-1 price to win Super Bowl 59 and hoist a Lombardi trophy finally for the first time since 1994, right alongside the team that has beat them in the big game 2 of the previous 5 seasons. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. The San Francisco 49ers, a very short favorite to win the NFC Championship. So you would think, DRS, as the boys are back on the practice field, football has returned. It's all rah-rah, bright smiles, and positivity to make it this year the year. Hasn't been the case for the 49ers. Of course, a couple of weeks ago, after an embattled offseason, Brendan Aiyuk officially requests what felt like his 9th trade request of the offseason, but he even showed up to training camp. The veteran 11-time Pro Bowl left tackle, Trent Williams, unhappy with his current deal, is now holding out at the start of training camp for the 49ers.
And I preface it by saying this. When you're in the window to win an NFL championship, what the 49ers are right now, boy, they have a lot of question marks and a lot of anger from players, but also the players understand that as well. It's a lot harder to say, you know what, I think I'm one of the better players in football on a really bad team. Let me hold out. And sometimes the ownership group and the fans can be like, we're going to lose whether you're here or not. It's not a big deal. We know we might as well trade you. But you can't do that if you're the 49ers. You can't say to yourself, because if the perfect world, right, Aiyuk is angry, and you say to yourself, okay, we drafted Pearsall. Well, also, you could have traded Aiyuk, got a first-round draft pick, and drafted another wideout and say, hey, look, we got our 2 wideouts of the future here on cheap salaries. We're paying Debo. This should work out fine in our favor. Because if you ask me, my favorite play caller by a mile in the NFL is Kyle Shanahan. Betting-wise, I love betting the 49ers. I love taking team props on the Niners because everybody is live because they're going to score a lot of points, and you understand that. But also, you look at Aiyuk. He's unhappy. He's doing that holding. Like, hey, I'm going to show up to practice, dap it up. But what's going to change now, Ben? He hated this franchise and the way they've treated him from February all the way through now. What changes up to the deadline? And now also, here's the ingredient. If you're the 49ers and you say, of course, next year, Brock Purdy is going to get an unbelievable amount of money. Our window is now. Yep. But also you say, who's more important? Brendan Aiyuk is a wonderful wide receiver. I love him. He fits perfectly into that scheme. But let's say the Niners go, we can only have one. You know it's going to be Trent Williams. He's going to win that even though he's in his mid-30s because of how important the left tackle position, and if you have a bad one, can wreck your entire offense. So Brandon Aiyuk has to sit back and go, wait a second, you took care of McCaffrey in the offseason this year. Debo was just a few years in the past. I think it was last year he signed that big extension. Now I want my money. I'm a good player. Tell me how good I am, but you keep brushing me to the side, and every time I want to do something, Bosa steps in last year with monster money. Trent Williams now wants monster money. It's almost like, when am I going to get mine, and how important am I to this franchise, which is why he's acting out by going on social media, Ben, and saying, just get me out of here. You're telling me you love me, but then tell me I'm not worth the money I am. When I know if I'm a true market wideout as a free agent, I would reset the market myself. Just pay me accordingly.
And that's a point, DRS, that I think is kind of underrated around Brandon Aiyuk. The 2020 NFL draft class of wide receivers has been front and center this offseason. A couple of guys taken in the first round. Justin Jefferson, the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the NFL. CeeDee Lamb holding out in Dallas, looking for that record-setting deal as well. Brendan Aiyuk unhappy with San Francisco. And T. Higgins, a second-round pick, of course, will play under the franchise tag this year in Cincinnati. And maybe you don't put Aiyuk up there with the likes of Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb, but you're kind of wrong in not doing so. He has had more than 1,100 receiving yards in each of the past 2 years. Maybe he hasn't been as prolific as Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb, but what do the last 2 years have in common? A majority of the snaps at quarterback have been taken by Brock Purdy. Brandon Aiyuk, not George Kittle, not Debo Samuel, is Purdy's favorite target at the wide receiver position. Yes, there is so much offensive talent to spare around this 49ers organization, but you would think, knowing you're going to have to pay Brock Purdy at the end of this year, you would want to keep his top target very happy, and you would want to keep everybody happy because you are the NFC Championship favorites and you are the Super Bowl co-favorites entering 2024. Look at the odds. 11.5. San Francisco is nearly a $2 odds-on favorite to win the NFC West, once again, the Chiefs at minus 230 and the Niners at minus 190. The two strongest prices for two teams to win any of the 8 divisions around the National Football League. Donnie, there shouldn't be drama. Even the Chiefs last year was the year to knock KC off its perch. It did not happen. This offseason, they got better in a run to try to win 3 consecutive Lombardi trophies, where it feels like there is only drama consistently around the 49ers this offseason.
It is odd, too, because you take a look around some of the other franchises. You don't want to come into training camp with animosity with some of your best players. You want the good vibes coming in where everybody's working towards the Super Bowl and is happy. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles season last year didn't go as planned, but they're not coming into the season with a lot of question marks with their talent because they did have a defensive lineman in Hassan Reddick who was very good for the Eagles. Made it known right away. I want more money. You know what? We're not going to be able to make that happen. Trade him early in the season, move on, get another player, readjust in free agency. I don't think anybody would have had a problem with this, Ben. If you would even came out in the offseason and Kyle Shanahan goes, we love Brandon Aiyuk, but we know the salary cap restraints, which quite frankly, there aren't any, but people will buy into it. We can't afford everybody. So that's why we made the move to get a first-round draft pick, and we traded him this year to, let's just say, the Pittsburgh Steelers. We drafted another talented player in his place and got Ricky Pierce. So like, you know what? That's smart business here if you weren't going to sign him. Because now you're at the point you have to sign Brandon Aiyuk. You can't have him angry this season as being, as you said, Ben, the favorite target of Brock Purdy. You just can't do that. So they misplayed the hand a little bit, but they've been down this block before. Debo swore them up and down for an entire offseason. Eventually, they came to an agreement. You take a look at Bosa. They're so talented defensive end. He signed basically just a few days, it felt like, before the season started. So they do have a tendency to get these deals done, but there's no reason for this. You saw it all season long. Get your game plan together and execute it, and the fans will be fine. Now we have question marks heading into training camp, but I do expect, if you ask me right now, I think Williams and Aiyuk will both be happy on this roster, but we didn't have to go through this and how late maybe they're going to report to training camp and or practice.
And John Lynch was meeting with reporters as San Francisco showed up to training camp earlier this week. The general manager, of course, in San Fran saying, we're happy Brendan Aiyuk is here. We expected him to be here. We'll make sure this gets done. They are not going to trade him. They have been very hesitant, even resistant to the idea he is truly on the block for a deal to be made around the National Football League. Brendan Aiyuk could be one of the 4 wide receivers, maybe make it 5 or 6 after CeeDee Lamb in his deal to receive $30 million per year. Trent Williams right now, one of the top 5 highest paid O-linemen in the NFL at more than $23 million per year, under contract for the next 2 in San Francisco, but just saw Christian Darrisaw in Minneapolis become the highest paid O-lineman in the NFL at more than $28 million per year, and saw Penei Sewell for Detroit get that big contract extension earlier this offseason as well. Trent Williams, 4 years in San Francisco, Pro Bowler all 4 years, 3-time AP first team All-Pro, deserving based on the accolades. Speaking of drama from a Northern California native, enter Aaron Rodgers, asked yesterday at Jets training camp why he actually missed mandatory minicamp. To hear it from the horse's mouth himself, Aaron Rodgers says he has been a fan of Egypt for 3 decades and planned his trip based on the previous year's mandatory minicamp schedule, which was different this year. That's a tweet from Ari Mayroff. It almost seems like that's an Onion article headline. Go ahead, DRS.
Like, you're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Let's just say you dropped $30,000 on that vacation to go to Egypt. It ends up months early in advance. They tell you, hey, by the way, your mandatory OTAs are during this time. Well, can't afford to make the change now. Well, I'm going to upset my franchise because I have to go here. Instead of pushing it back a week or moving it up a week. The stories write themselves here. From a guy that said, let's make sure it's all about football inside the building, he does the exact opposite. My, oh my, New York Jets.
That's where it stands with Gang Green. More on the early line up next. One of the great things about everybody being back at training camp as of yesterday, of course, all 32 NFL organizations reported for camp. Now everybody's back on the practice field. So all of these contract situations we have talked about and forecasted throughout a long football offseason come to a head if they have not been finalized as of this moment. And Donnie, there's still 3 quarterbacks that are due for an extension that have yet to sign and ink their new big deal. Dak Prescott in Dallas, Jordan Love that we have discussed at length in Green Bay, and Tua Tagovailoa in Miami in his 5th and final year of his rookie deal. The two sides remain optimistic that a new contract will be done rather shortly. So almost like Jordan Love with the Packers, it's a kind of hold in for Tua in Miami. He is on the practice field. He is going through workouts, but when it comes to 11-on-11 drills, he's not going to participate. So head coach of the Fins, Mike McDaniel, calls the situation, quote, very fluid. What is your reaction, DRS, to Tua Tagovailoa's status in Miami?
Well, it's what the quarterbacks understand. They are the lifeblood of the organization itself. And sooner than later, you're probably going to get a deal done. And it's not going to be all this animosity heading into camp. It's apparent. Both sides are talking. They're probably just going over some contract language and figure out the final details. But quarterbacks aren't going to stay away from their team. It's the reason why most of the time here, 99% of the quarterbacks show up for the rookie OTAs, because the quarterback sets the tone for the entire franchise and how those practices are going and running. And if you are Tua Tagovailoa, just being around the fellas, being in the room here, answering questions from the young guys, being in the film room to give pointers out there and taking those mental reps, it's extremely important. I like the way they're going about this because it very easily could be animosity, holdout. I'm not even showing up to training camp until I get my deal, and that could derail the entire season. This deal will get done, and it should get done. He's a quarterback that's eligible for an extension. You're telling me I'm the franchise guy. Pay me like the franchise guy. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I think it will as well. I wonder what the numbers look like. That's kind of the conversation now, right? We would both anticipate that Jordan Love, Tua Tagovailoa, and or Dak Prescott, when they sign, if they sign, it will all be something in the ballpark of at least $51 million to join the 6 quarterbacks that make more than $50 million per year annually in the National Football League. Is it going to match that of Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow at $55 million per year to be the highest paid QBs in the NFL and the National Football League history? Donnie, do you think that all 3 guys, when/if they sign that we just mentioned, Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, Tua Tagovailoa, do you think their base is $55 million per year?
Yes, I do think that. And also, you get back to that Dolphins scenario, which it's kind of crazy to think about it. Maybe they were thinking that, okay, we're not going to pay him. We're just going to wait it out because eventually those concussions are going to pop up and then we can move on. Now, not to say they want to move on from the quarterback, but boy, this makes it such a, like if you're looking at Dak Prescott, like, yes, he's been injured in his career, but not really the concussion. So if you sign him to a long-term deal, we're not asking the same questions. Jordan Love been the same way. You're not asking the same question. Oh, I wonder if he can stay healthy. But Tua Tagovailoa is such an interesting one because like one concussion in week number 2 could derail that massive contract that he just got. And I'm sure that's being weighed in. Now, the reason sometimes these take a little bit longer, you might have language that the Dolphins are trying to get through this contract that we haven't seen in any other quarterback contracts. Now, we've seen guaranteed money for injury. Like, hey, if you snap your leg and can't play again, you're going to get X amount of money. But I know they're fighting between like, hey, man, look, if this ends on a concussion, we got to make sure the insurance is there. We got to make sure that guaranteed dollars are right. Because think about this, man. He plays next year and signs a 5-year extension. He gets 2 concussions next year. Hey, look, I got to hang it up. The NFL doesn't come in and say, oh, you know what? That's a shame. We'll wipe that off the books completely. You're basically going to pay Tua Tagovailoa on the books for 4 more years until his contract is done. That's what's so tough about this negotiation between the Dolphins and Tua.
Last year, no issue. He played in all 18 games for Miami, including that playoff game against the Chiefs. That did not go very well. As you see, he led the National Football League in passing yards last year, 4,624. I think there are questions about all 3 quarterbacks that we have mentioned. If they are worth $55 million, perhaps that's not the right one, given where the salary cap and the inflated salaries are for the quarterback market. But it's not like you're attempting to pay Patrick Mahomes and arguing should he be paid as the highest quarterback in the National Football League. Dak Prescott has had his postseason woes, as has the Dallas Cowboys as an organization for the better part of the last 3 decades. Same questions around Tua Tagovailoa. Great in this Miami offense, but is that because of Tua, or is he a product of the scenario around him? And Jordan Love, sensational down the stretch last year, but it's still a very small sample size. Now let's get to some injury concerns around some quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson, only 4 games last year in his rookie campaign, had season-ending shoulder surgery very early on. Is good to go, is a full go for all of training camp in Indianapolis.
It's a really good sign, but I'm interested to see how he changes his play, because what made him so dynamic was the ability to be basically the best open field runner in the NFL, and he's a quarterback, but you can't take that beating. He basically got knocked out of every single game he played. We know he can't do that, but I don't want to see them take away what he does best, which means being athletic outside the pocket, making plays, because that's what's going to make the Colts so dynamic here. This is going to be an interesting one to watch in year number 2, because we're expecting that maturation process. But we didn't even get to see him as his rookie year. So de facto, it feels like this again is going to be his rookie year. Let's see how he progresses.
Only 2 fully completed games in which he started and ended. He had more rushing TDs 4 last year than he did throwing touchdowns, only 3. Speaking of quarterbacks ready to go, Daniel Jones has been fully cleared for contact in 11-on-11 drills for the New York Giants. Cool.
And here's the best part about this tweet. Probably 90% of the Giants fans saw that come out from the beat writers like, come on, man. We were hoping he wasn't ready to go this year. Tough scene out there for the Giants.
Listen, Hard Knocks is a fun thing. Of course, it is illustrious in NFL circles. But when there is cameras following your front office's every move, certain words are said that you maybe don't want to popularize out there to the public. Like they were fully in on trying to trade up for Jaden Daniels and Drake May, but couldn't do it. So Danny Dimes is their guy. Oh boy. More around the NFL with training camp underway next. We have talked a lot of training camp news and notes around the NFL. One of my favorite parts is taking a short tweet or an update and deciding if it actually matters or perhaps overreacting to it. Lamar Jackson missed the first few days of Baltimore training camp, just at least on the practice field. Was in the facility, reported to camp on time, not of anything like that, but has been around meetings, just not on the practice field as he's been feeling slightly under the weather. I guess that's been the report out of the flock. Yesterday, out on the practice field for the first time in camp, but only for about a single hour before he walked off the field and looked weary to the reporters that were there. DRS, we overreacting? Or is it just hot in the summer and he wasn't feeling great and needs to get better hydration?
Yeah, I think we're overreacting a little bit. And again, case in point, I'm that fine-tuned athlete here, still in my mid-40s at this point. In a couple weeks, I wasn't feeling all that good. Got away for a couple days, came back really refreshed. So I know exactly what Lamar Jackson is going through right now in training camp. It's not a good sign because you hope it's not anything that's going to be longer term. But everybody's had those. I mean, look, you are a fine-tuned athlete out there in high humidity, expected to run around at peak performance. And if you're not feeling well, it doesn't feel all that good to be out there. Like, just think about sitting in your cubicle, driving around, or even doing this job. Like, I'm a little bit under the weather, but I can sort of get through it. It's hard to do that as a professional athlete in a pro practice. I'm not worried about it one bit here. It's just a shame they started off camp this way and have those question marks. But long-term wise, I don't think we're going to have any issues here.
And neither were the Ravens, by all reports. John Harbaugh, Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, like, hey, the guy's been here. He's not feeling great. We'll be all good. But speaking of not feeling great in the hot humidity of summertime ball at training camp, Mekhi Becton, a new Philadelphia Eagle, the former offensive lineman and first-round pick for the New York Jets, a big fella, working out yesterday in the Philly sun, in the Philly summer, threw up about 4 times along the sideline. Who amongst us hasn't thrown up on a football field before?
Me. I've never actually done that here. So there you go. And I've run thousands of miles as a wide receiver, but I have seen a lot of people have done that, whether it's just something's not agreeing with you in your stomach or we've all been there before. Maybe it didn't work out as hard as you needed to because nothing can guarantee. I always like this too, Ben. You have the guys like, hey, I'm working out away from the team right now. Nothing can simulate being in an actual practice in those moments here. So the minute you start to hit those gassers and you're tired and you got 3 more to go, and usually the big uglies got to run last and they all get cheered on, boy, it's tougher. Look, I was running around in high school, $175, $170 here. Some dude's running around at 300 pounds. Yeah, that's a lot tougher for you. So I don't mind when the big boys do it because they're carrying that extra weight and that extra heat, man. Let them get some relief, man. Come on.
Mekhi Becton out of Louisville, listed at 6'7" and 364 pounds. So, yeah, he's carrying around a lot speaking of Philadelphia, DRS, we pour some out at the end of this year for an all-time bird, Brandon Graham, confirming to reporters at the start of training camp that this year in 2024, his 15th in the National Football League, all of them as a member of the Eagles organization, will be his 15th and final year in the National Football League. Donnie, right side, the floor is yours to pay some respect to a great Philadelphia Eagle.
Yeah, I don't want to rip the guy, but we already know this was his final season when he signed originally here, but that's out of the picture. I'm going to take that away. All good vibes here.
Just confirming,
Wife doesn't watch the show. Kid doesn't watch the show. Some of my family members actually do watch the show, but they know this. I mean, BG's strip sack fumble with Tom Brady. I mean, you want to go back as the greatest moment in my entire life right now. I got to be real quiet at this point, but it literally was the greatest moment in my life. Thank you, BG. If you want to sign for another 5, 6, 7 years, you go ahead and do it. Moments like that were made for me just to say, you know what? I lived a full and healthy life. Now can be my time at this point. Thank you, Brandon Graham, from the bottom of my heart.
It is one of my favorite recurring bits on this show, not our mispronunciation of Major League Baseball. Really, that's why I love it so much. The bit is that your wife and daughter do not watch the show so that you can share openly what you truly feel. Most people probably put on the facade, the day my first kid was born, one of the greatest days of my life. The day that I got married, the best day of my life. Donnie really lets you know how it is. The Eagles winning a Super Bowl and BG with the strip sack of Tom Brady. Truly the best moments of his life.
I mean, unbelievable. I mean, I could just go back to that moment right now. I mean, but there's not many memories I remember. That's one memory I'll always remember. How about that?
Yeah. Let's let you look off into the distance and reminisce and soak up the good times and nostalgia. Yeah, all right. Hour number 2.